The silent departure. The blue-white glow of quantum calculations illuminated Dr. Elena Novak's face as she studied the results for the fifth time. Her laboratory, buried 3 kilometers beneath the Ural Mountains, was one of Earth's most classified facilities, unknown even to the Galactic Confederation's extensive surveillance network. "It works," she whispered, allowing herself a rare smile. "The Phantom Drive works." Behind her, General Marcus Way of the Earth Defense Force watched silently. After 20 years of serving as humanity's representative to the Confederation, the lines on his face told a story of diplomatic battles and swallowed pride. "You're certain?" he asked, his voice carrying the weight of humanity's future. Elena nodded. The test probe traveled 15 light-years in under 3 seconds. No radiation signature, no spatial distortion, no detectable wake. According to every sensor in Confederation space, it simply ceased to exist here and then existed there. And the Confederation has nothing like this. Nothing close. They're still using fold space technology. Efficient, but as subtle as a supernova. She turned to face him fully. The Phantom Drive doesn't bend space. It phases through dimensional barriers. We're not traveling through their space at all. The general's shoulders straightened almost imperceptibly. For the first time in decades, humanity had an advantage. How soon can we scale it? Elena's gaze drifted to the holographic display showing Earth's remaining outposts across Confederation space, tiny blue dots amid a sea of alien territories. 6 months for ships up to cruiser size. 9 for the colony vessels. We nodded, his decision already made. Begin immediate implementation. Priority Alpha. When the Confederation had discovered Earth 70 years ago, humanity had welcomed them with open arms and boundless optimism. The prospect of joining a galactic community of 37 spacefaring species had seemed like the fulfillment of humanity's oldest dreams. Reality had proven far less ideal. Captain Sophia Rice stood on the observation deck of Ganymede Station, watching as Confederation inspectors moved through the facility with the casual entitlement of colonial masters. Their species, the insectoid Vexteri, had been among the founding members of the Confederation and never missed an opportunity to remind humans of their primitive status. "Captain, your mining output has decreased by 17% this quarter," said Inspector Colvex, mandibles clicking with disapproval. "The Confederation Resource Allocation Committee finds this concerning." Sophia maintained her professional demeanor despite the anger simmering beneath. "As I explained in my report, Inspector, 3 of our primary extraction drones were damaged during the solar flare last month. Replacement parts have been delayed at Confederation Customs for special inspection for 63 days now." The Vexteri's compound eyes gleamed. Perhaps if human technology met basic Confederation standards, such breakdowns would be less frequent. The irony wasn't lost on Sophia. The Confederation systematically blocked human technological advancement through a maze of regulations and safety protocols, while simultaneously criticizing Earth's primitive technology. It was a deliberate strategy. Keep humanity dependent while extracting maximum resource value from Earth's colonies. Her comm unit buzzed, a priority message with General Way's encryption signature. As the inspector moved to examine another section of the station, Sophia discreetly checked the message. "Nightfall Protocol activated. Implementation timeline. 72 HOURs. Confirm RCIP." Her heart raced as she sent a simple acknowledgement code. After years of preparation, it was finally happening. Humanity was about to disappear. Admiral Lorix of the Aquilian Confederation Navy frowned at the report on his terminal. Another human mining outpost had gone silent, the 5th this month. The pattern was becoming impossible to ignore. "Show me the surveillance footage again," he ordered. His aide, Lieutenant Commander Traz, brought up the holo display. The footage showed a typical day at the human mining station on Ceres. Workers moving between modules, ships being loaded with ore, all routine activities. Then, over the course of just 3 hours, the humans methodically loaded equipment onto their ships and departed, According to transit logs, they were headed to Earth for a scheduled rotation. They never arrived at Earth. Lorax asked. No, Admiral. The ships entered the designated fold space corridor toward Earth, but never emerged at the other end. This was concerning. Fold space corridors were the only practical method of faster-than-light travel, maintained and monitored by the Confederation. Disappearing mid-transit should be impossible, and the pattern is the same at all 5 outposts. Yes, sir. Orderly departure, followed by disappearance in transit. Lorax's gills flattened against his neck, a sign of deep concern among Aquilians. What about the long-range outposts? The research stations beyond the Kuiper Belt? We haven't been able to establish contact with any of them for the past 2 weeks. The Admiral rose from his seat, moving to the galactic display dominating one wall of his office. With a gesture, he highlighted all human-occupied systems and outposts. Nearly 30% of them were now showing as non-responsive. Has the Confederation Council been informed? Yes, Admiral. They've classified it as a minor communication disruption and assigned it low priority. The diplomatic corps believes the humans are simply experiencing technical difficulties. Lorax had spent enough time studying human history to know better. No, this is organized, deliberate. He turned to his aide. Send surveillance drones to every human outpost in Confederation space. I want visual confirmation of human presence at each location within 24 hours. On Earth, Central Command had become the nerve center of humanity's greatest undertaking. Beneath the watchful eyes of General Wei and a coalition of Earth's remaining independent nations, the exodus was proceeding with methodical precision. Elena Novak stood before the assembly of military and civilian leaders, her presentation showing the status of Operation Nightfall. Phase 1 is 60% complete, she reported. All deep space outposts and research stations have successfully relocated to the designated coordinates in the Sagittarius Arm, well beyond Confederation space. Phase 2, the evacuation of mining operations and military outposts, is proceeding on schedule. President Diaz of the United Earth Government leaned forward, and the Confederation's response. Minimal so far, Intelligence Director Kamala Rayo interjected. They've noted the communications blackout but classified it as a technical issue. Only Admiral Lorax of their Navy appears concerned, but he's being ignored by their bureaucracy. General Wei nodded with grim satisfaction. The advantage of being underestimated. They've spent decades convincing themselves we're technologically inferior. It hasn't occurred to them that we might have developed something they don't understand. How long until they realize what's happening? Asked Chancellor Ahmed. Our projections suggest we have 2 more weeks before they comprehend the full scope, Director Rayo answered. By then, phases 1 through 3 will be complete. And phase 4? President Diaz asked quietly. The room fell silent. Phase 4 was the most audacious part of the plan, the complete evacuation of Earth itself. Elena spoke into the silence. The colony ships are ready, 7 massive vessels, each capable of carrying 10 million people. Combined with our smaller transports, we can evacuate the entire population in 10 days. And everything we've built over thousands of years. Our cities, our history. Chancellor Ahmed's voice carried the weight of what they were contemplating. We take what we can, General Wei said firmly. Cultural artifacts, seed banks, digital records. But yes, we leave our cities, our structures, our footprint on this world. His expression hardened. Better empty buildings than enslaved people. The president stood, her decision made. Begin phase 3 and accelerate preparations for phase 4. Admiral Lorax's worst fears were confirmed when the surveillance drones returned. Human presence across Confederation space had decreased by over 70% in just 2 weeks. The pattern was unmistakable. Humanity was conducting a massive, coordinated withdrawal. But to where? And how? The Confederation Council finally called an emergency session when the human delegation, present at every council meeting for 70 years, failed to appear. Representatives from all 37 species gathered in the Great Chamber on Axiom Prime, the Confederation capital. High Counselor Vextraz of the Vexteri spoke first, his mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. The humans are clearly in violation of numerous treaty obligations. Their disappearance from designated territories without Confederation approval is unprecedented. Perhaps, suggested the Neurone representative, her tentacles rippling thoughtfully, we should consider what might have prompted such a drastic action. The humans have filed over 3,000 diplomatic protests in the past decade alone. Irrelevant, dismissed Vextraz. Their obligations are clear. The Resource Division has calculated that human mining operations supply 22% of the Confederation's rare minerals. Their absence is already disrupting industrial production. Admiral Lorix, invited to report on the situation, stepped forward. Honored counselors, this goes beyond resource concerns. Our surveillance indicates a complete and coordinated evacuation of all human holdings in Confederation space. More concerning is how they're doing it. They enter fold space corridors, but never emerge at the other end. A murmur ran through the chamber. Fold space technology had been stable for millennia. The implications were disturbing. Are you suggesting, asked the Tholian delegate, that the humans have developed some new form of propulsion technology? Without our knowledge. It appears so, Lorix confirmed. And given our extensive monitoring of their research facilities, they must have developed it in complete secrecy. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices. The idea that humans, considered one of the less advanced species in the Confederation, could develop revolutionary technology undetected challenged many fundamental assumptions. Above the chaos, a priority alert appeared on the chamber's main display. The message was brief and shocking. Massive energy signatures detected around Sol system. All Confederation monitoring stations in the system have gone offline. On Earth, the final phase had begun. Elena Novak stood in Central Command, monitoring the deployment of 5,000 phantom drag generators in strategic positions around the planet. The technology that had begun as a propulsion system had evolved into something far more ambitious under the pressure of necessity. Generator network at 90% synchronization, she reported to General Wei and President Diaz, who stood watching the massive holographic display of Earth. Phantom field integrity looked stable. Around them, the command center buzzed with controlled urgency as the last colony ships loaded their precious human cargo. 7 billion people had been evacuated in just 8 days, a logistical miracle made possible only through years of secret preparation and the complete unity of Earth's nations in the face of existential threat. Confederation vessels have entered the system, announced Director Rao from her station, a full battle group led by the Aquilian flagship Eternal Vigilance. General Wei nodded calmly. Right on schedule. They're too late. Outside, the last stragglers hurried aboard the final transports. In cities around the world, streets lay empty. Homes stood abandoned. Only essential personnel remained, and they would depart on the last ships once the Phantom network was activated. Elena's console chimed. We're ready, General. We turned to President Diaz, who would have the honor of giving the final command. The President looked around at the men and women who had orchestrated humanity's greatest gambit, then at the beautiful blue planet displayed before them, humanity's home for hundreds of thousands of years. For the future of our species, she said quietly, then raised her voice. Activate the Phantom network. Elena entered the command sequence. Across the globe, 5,000 quantum generators hummed to life simultaneously, creating a unified field that enveloped the entire planet. On the bridge of the Eternal Vigilance, Admiral Lorix watched in disbelief as the impossible happened before his eyes. Earth, the blue-green homeworld of humanity, simply vanished from existence, leaving nothing but empty space where a planet had been moments before. The Earth was gone, and with it, every remaining human in the Sol system. Humanity had walked away from the Confederation, taking their world with them. The unforeseen consequence. For the first time, In its 12,000-year history, the Galactic Confederation faced an unprecedented crisis. High Counselor Vextraz stood before the emergency assembly, his exoskeleton now a dull gray, a sign of extreme distress among the Vexteri. The chamber, once a showcase of Confederation power and unity, now buzzed with fear and accusation. "The situation continues to deteriorate," he announced, mandibles clicking rapidly. 27% of Confederation industrial production has halted due to resource shortages. The human withdrawal has created critical supply gaps across multiple sectors. On the massive display behind him, red warning indicators spread across the galactic map like a disease. Major manufacturing hubs were shutting down. Shipyards sat idle. Mining operations struggled with failing equipment that could no longer be replaced. The Tholian representative rose, crystalline form glinting under the chamber lights. "This goes beyond resources. 17 essential medical treatments developed by human biochemists are no longer available. Death rates for treatable conditions have risen 11% in just 3 months. And let us not forget," added the Neuroan delegate, "that humans comprise 38% of the Confederation's creative patent applications, despite being only one of 37 member species. The innovation gap is already apparent. The accusations flew freely now, species blaming each other for humanity's departure. The Vexteri were condemned for their systematic suppression of human technological development. The Aquilians faced criticism for restricting human expansion. The Tholians were blamed for exploitative trade policies. In the midst of the chaos, Admiral Lorax watched silently. He had warned them for years about alienating the humans, about the dangers of underestimating a species that had advanced from primitive flight to space travel in less than a century. No other known species had developed so quickly. Now they were paying the price for their arrogance. 6 months after the disappearance of Earth, Admiral Lorax stood on the bridge of the Eternal Vigilance, staring at the emptiness of space where the human homeworld had once orbited its yellow star. No trace radiation, no spatial distortion, no sign they were ever here, reported his science officer, a young Aquilian named Miria. "It's as if they found a way to step outside our reality." "That's exactly what they did," Lorax said quietly, "and we drove them to it." The Confederation Council had finally acknowledged the severity of the crisis and authorized an expedition to locate humanity, with Lorax appointed as its leader. The admiral had been chosen not only for his military experience, but for being one of the few high-ranking officials who had consistently advocated for better treatment of humans. Now his task was to find a species that clearly did not wish to be found. "Admiral," called his communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission. Origin unknown." "On screen," Lorax ordered, straightening with surprise. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a human face, a woman with dark skin and calculating eyes that Lorax recognized from Confederation intelligence briefings. Dr. Elena Novak, Earth's leading quantum physicist. "Admiral Lorax," she said, her voice clear despite the impossible fact that they had received no transmission from any recognized source. "The Confederation's predictability remains its greatest weakness. We anticipated this mission." Lorax moved closer to the display. "Dr. Novak, your presence is unexpected. I'm contacting you because your records showed you were one of the few who treated humans with respect. The Confederation wants to find us. The question is, why should we be found?" It was a fair question. The withdrawal of humanity has caused significant disruption to Confederation systems. Many essential services and industries depended on human participation. Elena's expression remained impassive. "So the Confederation misses its laborers and resources, not its equal partners. This merely confirms our decision to leave. There are also humanitarian concerns," Lorax added carefully. "Medical treatments developed by humans are no longer available, resulting in suffering across multiple species." This seemed to register with the human scientist. After a moment of consideration, she spoke again. "I will provide coordinates for a meeting. You may bring one ship, your own. Any additional vessels will be considered hostile, and we will disappear again, permanently. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge crew staring at empty space. "Sir," ventured his first officer, "could this be a trap?" Lorax shook his head. "If the humans wanted us destroyed, they would have done so when they had the element of surprise. No, Commander. This is something else entirely." Elena Novak stood on the observation platform overlooking New Terra's capital city, a gleaming metropolis that hadn't existed 1 year ago. Around her stretched the verdant landscape of humanity's new homeworld, a pristine Earth-like planet in the Sagittarius Arm, far beyond Confederation space. Behind her, General Wei and President Diaz watched as engineers made final adjustments to the quantum communication array, technology that allowed instant, untraceable communication across unlimited distances, another innovation born from the Phantom Drive research. "Are you certain about this meeting, Elena?" Wei asked, his military mind naturally suspicious. "We've built something remarkable here. Something free of Confederation interference." Indeed they had. In just 6 months, humanity had established 17 colony worlds, all connected by Phantom Drive corridors that allowed transit between them in minutes rather than weeks. Without Confederation regulations stifling innovation, human technology was advancing at an exponential rate. "The Admiral is not like the others," Elena replied, "and we need to understand their response to our departure." Besides, she added with a slight smile, "Sometimes the best way to negotiate is from a position of overwhelming strength." When the Eternal Vigilance emerged from fold space at the provided coordinates, Admiral Lorax found himself staring at an impossible sight. Where there should have been empty space, a vibrant Earth-like world hung before them, surrounded by a complex network of orbital structures. More shocking were the readings his sensors were detecting, energy signatures far exceeding anything in the Confederation's technical capabilities. "Sir," his tactical officer reported with barely concealed alarm, "we're detecting over 300 vessels in orbit. Their energy outputs suggest they're significantly advanced." Before Lorax could respond, a transmission came through. "Admiral Lorax," came Elena Novak's voice. "Your presence has been approved. A shuttle will guide you to the surface. You may bring a delegation of 5. As the Aquilian shuttle descended through the atmosphere of New Terra, Lorax and his chosen delegates, representatives from 5 Confederation species, gazed in wonder at the landscape below. Gleaming cities stretched across verdant plains, connected by high-speed transport systems. Vast agricultural domes produced food in controlled environments. Most impressive were the massive energy collectors that appeared to be harvesting quantum energy directly from subspace. Technology theorized, but never successfully implemented by Confederation scientists. Their shuttle landed on a platform overlooking the capital city. Waiting for them was a human delegation led by Elena Novak, General Wei, and President Diaz. The formal introductions were tense but civil. Then, as they moved to a conference room with a breathtaking view of the city, the real discussions began. "In 6 months," Lorax said, unable to hide his amazement. "You've built all this." Elena nodded. "Without artificial constraints on our development, humanity advances quite rapidly. This is merely the beginning." "The Confederation is suffering from your absence," Lorax stated directly. "Many systems dependent on human participation have begun to fail. Systems designed to extract value from us while limiting our potential," General Wei countered. "The Confederation never saw us as equals, only as resources to be managed." President Diaz raised a hand to temper the general's tone. "What the general means is that the relationship was fundamentally unbalanced. The Confederation took much and gave little in return." Lorax couldn't honestly dispute this. "The Council has authorized me to negotiate terms for humanity's return to Confederation space." A moment of silence followed, broken by Elena's soft laughter. "Admiral, look around you. We've built 17 worlds like this one. Our Phantom Drive technology allows us to travel instantly between star systems without detection. Our energy production exceeds the entire Confederation output. Why would we return to a system designed to constrain us? The implications weren't lost on Lorax. Humanity hadn't just escaped, they had leaped forward, unburdened by the Confederation's restrictive policies. "Then what do you propose?" he asked quietly. President Diaz leaned forward. "A new relationship, not as subjects, but as equals. We will share some of our medical advancements on humanitarian grounds. We may even establish limited trade. But humanity will remain independent, developing on our own terms." "And if the Confederation refuses these terms?" asked the Vextari delegate, mandibles clicking in agitation. General Wei's expression hardened. "Then you will never see us again. The choice is yours." 3 months later, Admiral Lorax once again stood before the Confederation Council, now as the chief negotiator with the newly recognized Human Independent Alliance. The chamber that had once dismissed humans as a minor species now listened in stunned silence as Lorax outlined the terms of the agreement. "The Human Alliance will provide essential medical technologies and technical expertise for failing systems," he explained. "In exchange, the Confederation acknowledges their sovereign territory and agrees to a non-interference pact." "This is extortion," declared High Counselor Vextraz, his exoskeleton flushed deep orange with anger. "This is consequence," Lorax corrected calmly. "For 70 years, we treated humans as inferiors while exploiting their resources and innovations. Now we face the reality that they may have been the most adaptable and innovative species among us." The Neuron representative's tentacles rippled thoughtfully. "The humans have demonstrated what they can achieve without our guidance. Perhaps we should consider what we might learn from them, rather than what we can extract." Debate raged for days, but the reality was undeniable. The Confederation needed humanity more than humanity needed the Confederation. In the end, the treaty was ratified. 1 year to the day after Earth vanished, a small diplomatic outpost bearing the flag of the Human Independent Alliance opened on Axion Prime. It was humanity's first official return to Confederation space. Inside the outpost, Elena Novak stood beside Admiral Lorax, watching Confederation citizens lining up outside. Scientists, engineers, medical researchers, all seeking consultation with human experts. "Your people have adapted remarkably well," Lorax observed. Elena smiled. "That's what humans do best, Admiral. We adapt. We overcome. When pushed too far, we find another way." "And the Earth? Will you ever return it to its original position?" "Perhaps someday, when trust has been rebuilt. For now, it remains safe in phase space, alongside our other worlds." Lorax nodded thoughtfully. "The Confederation believed it didn't need humans, that you were just another useful species to be managed. We were wrong." "Yes," Elena agreed. "The day humans walked away, you discovered just how wrong." Outside, representatives from across the galaxy waited to speak with the species they had once dismissed, now recognized as perhaps the most remarkable civilization the stars had ever known. Humanity had not only survived, they had forced a galactic power to acknowledge their worth by simply walking away. And in doing so, they had changed the course of galactic history forever.